Hey, welcome back, everyone. Today is the first video in a series I'm going to be uploading over the next 4 weeks that's going to give you all the steps you need to get started freelancing, and not only just get started, but do it right so that when you do start, you get the best results right out of the gate. So this first video is going to focus only on the planning stage of freelancing, which, yeah, it's, not the most exciting part, but it does have to be done. And honestly, I kind of like the planning stage. It's the part where you get really excited in your head about all the possibilities and places you can go with a new idea, and you're just exploring it. And to me, that's one of the funnest parts of any endeavor, whether I'm starting a new song or a new career in this case. It's fun to me, so maybe you'll like it too. So when you're planning out your career freelancing, the first thing you're going to want to do is just determine what goals you have for yourself. This can be split up into two broad categories of monetary goals as well as time goals. So obviously monetary, how much do you want to make with freelancing? Some people want to make this their career and completely quit their day job just to freelance. Some people don't really need that. Some people, they just want to work part-time at work, or maybe they just want some extra money coming in to buy more audio gear. I mean, who of us doesn't always run into the issue of having less money than we want to buy new gear? It's kind of the curse of being into audio, honestly. And aside from monetary goals, you need to think about time as well. What time frame do you want to be at your freelancing goal? I find that if you have a time goal in mind, it makes it a lot easier to just keep yourself in check and devote the time you need to getting things going. So that time goal is something that's really important to me. But the other thing that's also important that goes along with those is making a realistic goal. It's easy to say you want to quit your job in a month and just start freelancing, but is that realistically going to happen? Probably not. It takes time to build up that momentum to get enough clients coming in and enough cash so that you can quit your job. So really, when you're first making these goals for yourself, your first step should be to just do some research on what a realistic goal might be for you. And the way I did this when I was starting out is just to go online and see what happened with other people. If you do a quick search for something like, how long does it take to quit my job and start freelancing? Or how long did it take you to make X amount of money freelancing? You'll find different threads and articles from people talking about their experiences freelancing. I remember I found a thread before I got started where everyone was sharing how much money they were making after 6 months on Fiverr. And that was a great thread for me to read because it got me really excited about the possibilities that could be done with freelancing. I was pretty unsure about it at first, but after seeing all these people with great stories about making a decent chunk of money, maybe it wasn't a full-time amount of money, but it was a decent chunk. It got me really excited and hyped up. So I would start by doing that. And if you have a particular niche that you're looking to do, music mixing or something, voiceover work, then search for that specifically and see what results other people have had. If your goal is to quit your job and you're seeing people online saying, yeah, after 1 year, I was able to quit my job, then you know that that's a realistic goal for you to have. And on the same token, monetarily, if you see people online saying, yeah, after 3 months, I was making an extra $500 a month, then that's a good goal. You don't want to make your goal to make $2,000 a month 3 months down the line if that's just not really how things happen. Maybe that'll happen for you and that's great, but is that a realistic goal? Probably not. So just figure out what you can do in the time that you've allotted for freelancing. If you're going into this and you have 10 hours a week to devote to freelancing, then figure out how much money you can realistically make 10 hours a week. If all goes according to plan and you get those orders coming in, how much money will you be able to make realistically in that 10 hours? If you're doing podcast editing and it takes you, say, 2 hours to edit a podcast and you're making $30 off of a podcast at when you first start going, then you know that you can make $150 a week realistically just doing this. If it takes you 2 hours per podcast and you have 10 hours a week, that's 5 podcasts. So that'll give you kind of a reasonable goal to hit right away. And obviously, that money will keep going up. But in the short term, that's a realistic goal. I want to make $150 a week. And then you're going to have to figure out what your next steps are going to be after that. If you are putting 10 hours a week towards freelancing and you're getting so many orders in that you have to raise your prices just to, drop the amount of clients that are coming in and you're starting to make a lot more money, you're going to have to decide, hey, yeah, I'm ready to put more time towards freelancing. I'm going to cut my hours at my day job and go down to part time and devote more time to freelancing. So then you have 25 hours a week to work with and you're making even more money. And then after that, once you're comfortable with that, you can eventually quit your job. But make realistic goals on how long it's going to take you to do this based on what you see other people doing online. And then the next thing you're going to have to do, if you haven't decided already, is to make a decision on which jobs or gigs you're going to start off doing when you're freelancing. I recommend not overloading yourself. It's really easy to want to get out there and just say, I'll do whatever you want. I will edit your podcast. I will mix your music. I'll do this, I'll do that. But realistically, you should limit yourself because it takes a lot of time to get this going. And if you want to create a gig on, say, Fiverr, and you want to do it in a way that's going to set yourself out from the pack, you're going to have to devote a pretty solid amount of time towards setting up each gig. So what I did and what I would recommend you do is to start off with just 3 gigs that you want to start off with. And after that, you can keep expanding. But what I want you to do is just focus on these 3 and get these set up and going so that the quality of your gig is the highest it can be. And so that you're comfortable with this before you start moving off into doing anything else. Once you've done that, the next thing to do is to decide where you're going to offer your services at. There are several websites set up for freelancers to offer their services on, but you don't have to do that approach. If you don't want to do that, you can create your own website or go just by word of mouth to get clients in. If you do decide to go with a freelancing website, the 2 probably biggest and most common ones are Fiverr and Upwork. Out of the 2, if you're a beginner, I would recommend going with Fiverr. And that's purely just because Fiverr has kind of a lower barrier of entry on it. So let me explain how the 2 websites work. On Fiverr, a freelancer will go and set up a gig and say, I will offer this service. And then if somebody wants to get this service from you, they'll just click on that gig and just buy it. That's it. And you do the work. On Upwork, it's a little different. You create your profile and everything, but then you have to bid on work. So you'll go on there and see somebody is saying, I have this EP of songs that I need mixed. And then all the freelancers who want that job are going to have to bid on that and say how much money they are willing to do it for, as well as time. And then the person buying your services is going to make a decision on who they want. So if you don't really have any experience behind you or any sort of portfolio to kind of entice this buyer with, they're probably not going to go for you. I recommend starting with Fiverr and building up a portfolio of work behind you, getting some experience so that when you do move over to Upwork, you have some experience to back you up. Now, the benefits and drawbacks are that Fiverr is kind of, I would say, more focused on the low level of freelancers. I think in general, most buyers go in there expecting cheaper prices than they do on Upwork. I would say more professionals use Upwork than Fiverr, although there is crossover on both of them. So on Fiverr, you are going to have to do more bottom of the barrel work to start off with and do it for low prices. But really, this is just a stopgap to get that experience behind your name so that you can start selling for higher prices. And both of them also charge fees for freelancers. Fiverr, for instance, charges 20% per order. So if somebody buys your services and they're giving you $100 for this, you're only going to get $80 because Fiverr's going to keep another $20 of it. So that's really tough. It's really, a balancing act. Do you want to go to this website where people are looking for freelancers but have to give them 20%? Or do you want to do it yourself? And that really leads me to the next area is making your own website. A lot of freelancers just make their own website. The benefit of this is that once you get going with it, you get to keep pretty much all of your money. You might have to pay PayPal or whatever service you use to handle transactions a tiny nominal fee, but it's going to be a lot less than 20%. The downsides of this is that you're going to have to find all this work yourself. There's probably not a lot of people that are going to stumble across your website and just buy from you. So you're going to have to reach out. I mean, say you're a musician, you can offer your services to other musicians and just get it out there. Or if you have a rehearsal space with your band, put up a flyer or your business card offering your services for this. And when you're getting started, you can even offer them for a really tiny amount. Say, I'll do this for basically nothing, but in exchange, I want to be able to use your song as an example of my work in the future to get more work. Another thing you can do is to go on social media or message boards of places where people that work with audio might be looking for help. If you go on Facebook and you find a group of podcasters that just get together and just talk about podcasting, maybe you can make a post and say, hey, I will edit and mix your podcast if anybody is looking for that, and bring some people in that way. There's a lot of ways you can do it, but it takes more work. People aren't just flocking to you like they will on places like Fiverr and Upwork. So again, it's a balancing act. You make more money, but you might have to fight harder to get those clients in. So it's up to you what approach you take. I recommend starting with a freelancing site like Fiverr and Upwork just because it's an easy way to get experience. And then once you have that experience, you can build your website and again, just have that experience behind you that'll make people more comfortable about buying from you. The next thing I did when I was getting started was just outline absolutely every single thing I needed to do to be prepared and ready to go. I made a huge checklist of, I had to be 20, 30, 50 things that I had to do no matter how small so that nothing fell through the cracks. And I would split it up by gig. If you're starting with 3 gigs, I would say my first bullet point would be to research, see what other people are offering, what features they have, the price they're offering, so that you get an idea of how much to sell your gig for. After that, you have to create a thumbnail for your gig. After that, you have to have some sort of media to back you up. Hopefully you have some experience behind you already, even if it's just for friends. Maybe you and your friend tried to make a podcast one time and you're able to just kind of use that as a quick example to get your foot into the door until you get some gigs coming your way that you can replace your own examples with. And then after that, you have to write descriptions for your gigs and figure out good keywords to help you get searched. And it's a lot of work. So don't let anything fall through the cracks. Create a huge checklist, no matter how small the item, and just start busting through it. It's actually really rewarding to have a huge checklist that you're just going through really quickly, even if things are really small. I found a good way to keep myself working was to just say, oh, I'll just do one more checklist item. And it's really cool to say, if I just spent another 5 minutes on this, I could mark off this thing. And then you find yourself speeding through your list a lot quicker than you would if you're just kind of stumbling around saying, I got to get to that. I've got to get to that. So it really helped me. And then the last thing you're going to want to do before getting started is to organize. This is something that, at the beginning is not going to be a huge issue because you don't have a lot of orders coming in, but you want to have all your organizational structures in place for down the line for when you are getting a lot of orders in so that you don't have to worry about it. And none of this is really hard. You can get this set up pretty quick. The things I use are, a few apps. I have a to-do list app that I use so that I always know what gigs I have coming up or what tweaks I want to make to all of my gigs. And then I have a note app and I use folders on my computer. I actually created a whole video about staying organized that I will link to if you want to watch that. I know that doesn't sound the most interesting, but there's a lot of good info in there that's going to help you get more work done in less time, which means you're going to get more money. Along with these apps, like I mentioned, I use folders on my computer and I have a really good hierarchy set up with them. So on my desktop, I just have one folder for freelancing. Within that folder, I have several folders for every gig I have. So audiobook narration, I have podcast editing, I write some poetry for people. So I have a folder split up into all of that. Within those, I have different folders for any samples I have, any orders I have, and then any auditions I have. Obviously, in your order folder, you're just going to put in the work that you've done for every order. And I do this just in case down the line they come back to me and need changes. It does happen at times where they'll come back a little while later. Maybe they found an issue in one of their audiobook files and they need you to change it. I don't want to be searching around my computer trying to figure out where that logic file is or where the bounces are for this. I want them to all be in that folder and searchable by their username or the order number or whatever you have that you worked with them. And then the sample folder is just where I keep any samples I've used on my gig pages. If I've created a video for it or a thumbnail or little audio clips of my voiceover work that I've done, that all goes in the sample folder in case I need to do any changes to my profile. And that's really it. The next video is going to talk about how to actually get set up, and I'm going to go through setting up a Fiverr gig specifically because I feel like that's where most of the people are going to start or should start maybe. So once you have everything planned, jump over to that video and watch it, and I'll take you all through a gig and show you exactly how to set it up so that you get people in your gig and you stand out above the rest. The start is the hardest part because how do you stand out when there's thousands of other freelancers who are all vying for the same clients? Well, there's some ways you can do that, and there's some ways that you can elevate yourself above them, and I'll show you that in the next video. So if you liked this one, like the video, please, and then make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so that you're reminded when the next one comes up. Thanks for watching, and I hope I see you next time.